So guys, this is an episode of Scott Talks Law, and welcome to another episode of Scott Talks Law. So this episode we are going to talk about criminal procedure and practice, and we're going to talk about charges and information. So we're going to talk about the charge sheet and the contents of the charge sheet. So the charge sheet is that list that contains allegations against the accused person. So the charge sheet contains the name of that particular offences against the accused person, specified in detail, and it also contains particular sections that particular laws that were violated by the accused person. So the charge sheet contains that list of counts of offences against the accused person. So this accused person is accused of murder, rape, defilement, robbery, violence, manslaughter. So these particular offences shall be contained in the charge sheet in counts in separate paragraphs. So that arrangement of these counts are contained in the charge sheet. So charge sheet that list that contains allegations against the accused person, that in this particular date, in this particular time, this particular place, you're found at this particular place, this particular bank, robbing this bank, this particular amount of money. So those particular information against the accused person, contains allegations against the accused person, are contained in the charge sheet. So in the case of Ibrahim versus the Republic and in 1984, it was said that charge sheet should contain the particular acts that were violated, that particular sections that were violated by the accused person in detail. So information should be cited the correct sections that were violated. So this contains the section 137 of the CPC, the Criminal Procedure Code, contains how the charge sheet is to look. So under section 32, however, the defects in framing the charge will not result in the vitiating of the entire charge sheet, but it will just be allowed or permitted, provided that it does not prejudice the accused person. So the defects in framing the charge sheet will not vitiate the entire charge sheet, but it will be considered or looked in the interest of justice, whether it was in the interest of justice or whether the defect occasioned a failure of justice. So in the case of John Irungu versus Republic, the Court of Appeal at Mombasa, the Court of Appeal that failure to refer to the section of the act upon which the charge was based did not prejudice the accused person before a particular offense, because the particular offense was clearly stated. So if you are able to bring out the elements of that offense, if it is the elements of actus reus and the mens rea, if it is a crime, so if those elements are clearly stated, then it cannot be vitiated. So let us look at the joinder of offences. Under the joinder of offences, two single offences can be joined together, can be placed in the same charge sheet, provided that these offences have the same character and contain the same facts. So if these offences have the same character and contain the same facts, so far as they don't form part of the same transaction, then they can be joined together. So if it's the offense, an example here is where there is a robbery with violence, and later on at different times this person who robbed with violence has been found with firearms. So these two offenses can be joined together because they have the same character and they have the same facts. So it depends on the nexus and the connectivity between these offenses. If there's a sufficient nexus, if the sufficient nexus exists between these two offenses, then these two offenses can be joined together. So if they exhibit similar features and character, so in the example is the case of Evans Carlos versus the Republic, Court of Appeal Nairobi, Criminal Appeal number 360. The court held that there was sufficient nexus between a charge of robbery with violence and a charge of possession of firearm and ammunition without certificate to try the offences. Without certificate to try, so there was a sufficient nexus to try those offences together. So because they both, so in the case of Hamisi Ngale versus Buhere and Republic, so a charge sheet should contain a maximum of 12 counts. If it contains more than 12 counts, then a charge sheet will be overloaded. If this charge contains more than 12 counts, then it will be overloading the charge sheet, and it will give a defense side a hard time in preparing a defense against the accused person. So a charge sheet should contain a maximum of 12 counts according to the case of Hamisi Mwale, Ohere, and Republic, and also the case of Richard Lemuro Ramacha and 2 others versus Republic, to say that a charge that contains 17 counts will be overloading the charge. The charge contains 17 counts, it will be overloading the charge sheet. So that will give the defense side a hard time in preparing the defense against the accused, in preparing a defense against the prosecuting side. If the objection is the accused person will be required to, so it will give a hard time in preparing the defenses. So the jointer of accused. So when deciding whether joint or separate charges, consider whether the jointer will prejudice the accused. So in deciding whether to join these offenses or separate, the court is supposed to look at the interest of the accused person, whether this joining will prejudice the accused person. Will it prejudice? If it doesn't prejudice the accused person, it doesn't rule the accused person without being given a proper hearing, then these charges will be allowed to be joined. So let us look at and also to judge. So where the charge sheet information contains more than one count, the count should be set out in separate paragraph, and consecutively they should be numbered well. So these charges, if they have more than one count, these counts should be set out in different paragraphs. The charge sheet should have 12 paragraphs. These 12 paragraphs are numbered well, consecutively follow each other. So if this is a charge sheet, this charge sheet contains those counts numbered accordingly to the requirements. So where a charge sheet has an alternative charge, the alternative charge should be described and laid immediately after the count. So after that count, the alternative charge should be described well and well. So let us look at multiple charges and capital charges. Multiple charges and capital charges, or capital charges with non-capital charges. So capital charges. So capital charges, if are to be tried, non-capital charges should be held in abeyance or should be suspended. So the court should try capital charges, and non-capital charges should be held in abeyance. So the person may be charged with several capital charges. It has been held that as a good practice to proceed with one charge at a time and leave the others in abeyance. So proceed with one charge at a time as you leave other charge in abeyance. So in the case of Kwara Wanjala versus Republic, Court of Appeal Nairobi Criminal Appeal. So let us look at the joinder of accused persons. So accused persons can also be joined together in the same charge sheet. So 2 more accused persons can be joined if they institute. So of the instances listed in section 136 of the Criminal Procedure Code, if the person accused of the same offense committed in the course of the same transaction, as it was said in the case of R versus Bedingfield and Ratten's case, if the offense committed in the same course of transaction, or if the person accused of an offense, accused of abetting or attempting to commit an offense, if there is aiding or abetting. So if the person accused of offense that incurs the same punishment as the same section of the penal code or any other law that they have committed jointly within a period of 12 months. So if this offense has occurred within a period of 12 months, then they can be joined that has the same punishment. Another instance is where a person accused of different offenses committed in the course of the same transaction, as that one of robbery and possessing a firearm without firearm certificate. So where 2 more persons are charged together, the court has the discretion to see whether to have joint or separate trial in accessing this. So discretion is whether joint or separate trial, and to balance the disadvantages and inconveniences and expenses of separate count proceeding against the likelihood of prejudice any other accused person. So the court should decide whether joining these offenses will prejudice the accused person or not. If they will prejudice the accused person, then they should be held in separate charges. So and a charge sheet can also be You can also raise an objection against the charge sheet. An objection can be raised against the charge sheet. So an objection can be raised against the charge sheet on the grounds of double jeopardy, the principle of out of force convict and out of force evict, and also an objection can be raised against the charge sheet on the principle on whether this crime or particular crime in the charge sheet is not recognizable in law. So if that crime is not recognized in law, then this can raise an objection if that crime does not exist in law. So and amendment and substitution of the charge sheet can also be amended and substituted, and if a charge sheet is to be substituted, then the accused person should be called to plea on the substituted offense in the charge sheet. So accused person should be called to plea and the substitution charge in the charge sheet.